Should you get a VPAT? Probably. That's what we're going to talk about right now. I wrote about this today in a post titled, Should You Get a VPAT? Which is on the screen with me now. So sometimes our clients are on the fence. And if the client comes to me and asks me if I think they should get a VPAT, usually the very fact that they're asking the question reveals the answer. But sometimes I will suggest it to the client because they have a product or service and they are getting an accessibility audit. And I will tell them, hey, while you're here, are you familiar with VPATs slash ACRs? And so I'll tell them about this, and then they will start to weigh whether or not they should go ahead and get an ACR. And by the way, these two terms are used interchangeably. The VPAT is literally the template, so it's the blank template. The ACR is what you're really after. It's the Accessibility Conformance Report. This is what is the result after we fill in and complete the VPAT. But either way, most people say VPAT. So, what's interesting is this section in the post titled When to Wait. So, obviously, the ACR is a valuable piece of paper that you'd like to have, but clients have budgetary concerns. So, they may not go forward with VPAT services. And here are a bunch of bullet points as to why they might not go forward. So, maybe if procurement agents aren't asking you for it, then you probably don't have to be concerned with it. If you haven't addressed accessibility yet, then if we do issue an ACR, it's going to be laden with accessibility issues. If your product isn't ready to sell, there's no point in moving forward with VPAT services. If your product will soon have significant updates, so this is just like if your website is going to undergo a complete overhaul, there's no reason to audit it unless you just really want the audit or the overhaul is scheduled for a year out. If you know that you have updates that are coming and that are imminent, then go ahead and wait for those updates and then go for the ACR. If your competitors don't have ACRs, that's another reason. If your budget is forcing you into a higher priority purchase, and then also if you need one, you'll have time to secure it. So let's say you do think that you'll need one, but when that comes, which you don't know exactly when it will, but when it comes, you'll have time to go ahead and get the audit, get the potentially remediate, and then go ahead and get the ACR. If you have 6 weeks or even more, if you anticipate having that available, that's another reason to go ahead and kick the can on VPAT services. So I have here when to waltz, when to go forward, when to go for the gusto, when to move forward with VPAT services. You've had one or more purchasers bring it up. So that is telling you that the marketplace is it's going to come up even more. If one purchaser is asking, another one's going to be asking. You might as well get this taken care of. And then let's see, your accessibility is decent. So or you're willing to fix issues. That's always good because then you'll have a cleaner ACR, ideally fully conformant ACR. And when I say fully conformant with a given one or more technical standards. Your product is ready for showtime or is already on the market. That's always a good reason. You just made your latest revision. So a lot of these are the opposite of what I've already talked about. But here you've made your latest revision. So you know your product is finalized. Everything is set. Now is a good time to work on accessibility and get that ACR so you can win those contracts and get purchases. Your competitors already have ACRs. So if your competitors have ACRs, you are lagging behind. That is definitely a strong reason to go forward with VPAT services. And if you don't get an ACR, I have here your spidey senses are telling you that you're missing out. And so that gets back to what I was saying is if you're asking the question, you probably know the answer. So sometimes clients would just want to talk to someone who's experienced, who knows, yeah, you're probably right. They just want to have that confirmation. And so I'll let them know that, yeah, if you're getting asked about this, even though it may not have been something that came up a lot in the past, this is what we're seeing in the marketplace is just intense VPAT slash ACR demand. So yeah, so that's what I continue to write about in this. I have this wrap up section titled VPAT Consulting, where I talk about, if a client came to us and they're asking, the answer is probably. You probably are going to want the VPAT services so that you can get that ACR. Because what we're seeing is the network effect, and I have here the example of when skinny jeans kept caught on. At first, like, let's just go back. Let's say we go back to the early 2000s. Everybody was wearing, also in the 90s, people were wearing as baggy clothes as possible. And I don't know when skinny jeans started to take hold, but once they did, one person, then the next, and then so many, the majority of people that were wearing jeans were wearing skinny jeans. And I think that's similarly what's happening in the marketplace is uh, one person or more and more organizations, universities, different procurement teams, whatever it is, more and more people started demanding that there be an ACR along with the product. And so it's become a requirement. And so now it's just happening in the marketplace where we're seeing dominoes knocked over, and really, the VPAT demand has surged because of it. So in the past, it was more of a dealing with the federal government, the U.S. federal government thing. And then now what we're seeing is in the private marketplace, it's hard to sell digital products or services and have success without having that ACR documentation. So it is very much desirable. And if you'd like to ask me about VPAT services, if you'd like to ask me if I think that, about your specific situation, I will include a link to the contact page on accessible.org. And I will also include a link to this blog post. And by the way, if you go to this blog post titled "Should You Get a VPAT," what you will find is there's so much information on VPATs and ACRs on accessible.org. So you can learn all about VPATs, filling one in. Another common question: can you fill in your own VPAT? Yes, but in the private marketplace, that is not working out nearly as well as it used to, because buyers are more sophisticated now. They have upped their game, and now they are not just accepting a VPAT or an ACR that you issue to yourself, because they want to make sure that the results are real. And of course, we know the tendency for bias. It is your own product. You might not have sufficient technical expertise and accessibility to evaluate your own product. So there's so much that goes into VPATs and ACRs. And so this is information that is all contained on accessible.org, as well as this YouTube channel. If you go on this YouTube channel, just search for VPATs and ACRs, and you will find so many different videos where I'm talking through VPATs and ACRs and answering the most common questions. And by the way, I have a 2025 guide. I just remembered I have a 2025 guide video. So I'll link to that. And if in that video links to there's a PDF that I have with all of the frequently asked questions that are answered really concisely, really quickly, so you can get takeaways to all of the common questions that people have about VPATs and ACRs. That will be in the description as well.